at church, my parents asked the pastor, can we swap her role to save our son instead? The light filtering through the stained glass windows of Grace Community Church flooded the room with shades of red and gold, illuminating the anxious faces of the congregation. A hum of murmurs danced in the air, mingling with the scent of polished wood and the sweet lingering aroma of candle wax. Emily sat in her usual spot, heart pounding like a drum as she clutched her sketchbook. It was her sanctuary, a place where her thoughts could escape. But today, the shadows of doubt loomed over her like a storm cloud. Her parents, faces tight with worry and the weight of unspoken shame, stood at the front. Their eyes darted nervously to the gathered parishioners. The buzz of hushed gossip thrummed around the pews, making Emily want to disappear. They had been talking about her all week. The girl with the artistic dreams that felt more like chains than wings. In that very moment, her parents. It felt like an anchor dropping into deep water, pulling her down. The pastor's expression shifted from surprise to confusion as the words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. For a heartbeat, the church fell silent. Not a cough, not a whisper. All eyes turned to Emily as if she were the only one left breathing. Her mind raced. This wasn't just about an exhibition for her artwork. It was about Jake. Jake, her older brother, who had always been her protector. The one who swept her into adventures and breathed life into her fantasies. But now he was lost, surrounded by shadows that took him deeper into trouble. The dark crowd he hung around had carved a path of worry through their family, a winding road enveloped in dread. Now her parents seemed to abandon her passion, offering up her talent like a sacrificial lamb for Jake's sake. Emily felt a lump rise in her throat, a mixture of indignation and heartbreak. She thought of her dream, the vibrant paintings she poured her soul. Pastor Collins opened his mouth to respond, but Emily leaped to her feet, trembling. The atmosphere crackled with tension. She could hear the whispering of the congregation, fragmented sentences filled with pity and judgment. Is she worth it? What will happen to Jake? Emily's heart raced. This was her moment, but the stakes felt insurmountable. Would she stand up for herself at the cost of losing Jake? The pain clawed at her insides, echoing in her chest like a persistent drum. The flicker of doubt in her mind battled with the fire of passion in her soul. A flicker of hope pierced through the darkness. A decision lurked in the corners of her mind, waiting for the spark of courage. And yet, that very decision could tip the balance. What would she choose? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Emily stood frozen, the world near the heavy doors of the church flung open, rattling on their hinges. A figure stumbled in, gashing through the muted air like a storm. It was Jake. Breathless, his shirt torn and dirtied, he stood there, eyes wild, chest heaving. The congregation gasped collectively, the whispers shifting from Emily to her brother. A jolt racing through the crowd. He looked like he'd been through a war. Bruises painted his arms, and a dark stain blossomed on his pants. "Jake!" Emily shouted. Scrambling toward him, her heart thudded hard against her ribs. What happened? He leaned against the doorframe for support, his expression a chaotic mix of fear and desperation. "They found out!" he stammered, voice trembling. The room went dead still again, the murmurs dying in the face of his panic. Pastor Collins stepped forward, concern etched in his features. "Jake, what do you mean? Who found out?" "They know about the deal, the drugs, my friends." Jake's words fell like stones, sinking into the silence. People exchanged wide-eyed glances, cutting through Emily like shards of glass. All that worry about her, her art, her future, what was it compared to this? I'm sorry," he whispered, almost to himself. "I didn't mean—" A voice erupted in the back, sharp and accusatory. "You betrayed us, Jake! You should have taken the fall!" The piercing words shattered the tension like glass underfoot. The congregation buzzed with disbelief and anger, fuel for the flames of judgment. "Betrayed?" Jake's voice cracked as he straightened, the weight of guilt lifting momentarily. "You think I wanted this? I didn't ask for any of it." And then came the reveal, the words that would shift everything. "I was scared of what would happen if I didn't get the money, scared it would ruin our family." Emily's blood ran cold. Jake had always been her hero, but now the picture warped, revealing dashes of darkness behind his brave facade. Why hadn't she seen it? The shadows, the friends who loomed like smoke in his life. Had they really been an escape or a prison? Suddenly, in the corner of her eye, she caught a flicker of movement. Her parents. Their faces were pale, hands clenched tightly together. They looked at Jake, anger morphing into concern, and as their eyes softened, an unexpected truth pinched at Emily's gut. "Your brother is not the only one who has been deceiving you," her mother whispered, the words trembling like leaves in a chill. The congregation gasped as her voice grew louder. "We've been hiding something too, something you don't know." A wave of disbelief crashed over Emily, each heartbeat pounding louder than the last. Confusion mixed with anger surged through her veins. What more could there be? Secrets buried so deep they could sink ships. "What do you mean?" she demanded, voice cracking. "What are you hiding?" A strained silence stretched, a pull of anticipation hitching everyone's breath. Underneath it all, Emily felt the ground shake. Relationships unraveling, old loyalties eroding in a tide of revelations. Would this be the moment that crumbled their family's facade completely? Or would it be a new beginning, Her heart raced as she awaited the truth, the question hanging ominously in the air. What could possibly come next? Emily's eyes were locked on her brother. Heart drumming in her ears, the weight of her parents' hidden truths hung in the air, thick with suspicion and fear. She felt her palms sweat, her entire body trembling with the anticipation of something monumental. "Mom? Dad? What are you hiding?" Her voice wavered, but carried through the murmurs, commanding attention. The congregation leaned forward, faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Her mother's breath caught, and she looked like she wanted to retreat. "It's not what you think, honey. Not what I think." Emily's voice rose, slicing through the tension. "What is it then? What could possibly be worse than this?" Jake stood frozen, eyes darting between the two women who had always been his anchor. The silence hung like a knife, sharp and chilling. Then, in a sudden gust, the church doors creaked open once more. A gust of wind swept in, carrying with it a storm that rattled the stained glass. And then, from outside, echoed a voice. "Enough! Enough of this deception!" Everyone turned as a figure strode through the threshold. A woman Emily had never seen before. Her hair was wild, eyes fierce, filled with a burning intensity that seemed to ignite the air around her. "Who are you?" Pastor Collins stepped forward, voice steady, but confusion shadowed his brow. "Someone you've all overlooked," she shouted, her tone defiant as she marched to the front. "I'm here to finish what was started and to reveal the truth." Emily felt her breathe hitch. Was this a new chapter or a further descent into chaos? Finish what? What truth? Jake took a hesitant step towards the woman, desperation flaring in his gaze. "Your family is built on lies, Jake. Lies that extend beyond what you can imagine. It's time you face the real reason for your brother's struggles." Her words crashed like waves, violent and unforgiving. Emily's stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" The woman pointed a finger, unwavering, at her parents. "They took the easy road. They played it safe, while you two—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "Were bound to a fate they chose." The congregation gasped, whispers igniting like wildfire. "What fate? What do you mean?" The woman continued, her voice rising above the clamor. "Because your family wasn't just sheltering secrets. They orchestrated a deal that forced Jake into the depths of darkness to save themselves." Emily felt her knees shake. "What do you mean? What deal?" Jake was never alone. She shouted passionately. "You think he chose this path? No!" The room was electric, vibrations of disbelief pulsing as they absorbed her words. "He has been the scapegoat for your parents' mistakes. They needed someone to take the heat." "No, that can't be true," Emily screamed. But doubt tightened its grip. "What happened in the past," the woman declared, "leaves long shadows in the present. Just like you, your dreams were traded. Jake's fate was sealed by their inaction." Emily blinked hard, trying to process. The weight of it pressed down, suffocating. Behind her parents, she saw the flicker of guilt cross her mother's face. The truth, raw and unfiltered, slashed through her mind like a hot knife through butter. "Mom? Dad? Is this true?" Their silence screamed louder than any answer could. Before they could respond, an unsettling rumble echoed through the church. The floor trembled beneath them, and a crack split the air. The congregation gasped collectively. "Someone's been lying all along," the woman shouted over the chaos, her voice fierce and unwavering. And just when it seemed impossible to bear, Emily felt it, a slip beneath the surface of certainty. One moment burned brighter, like a flare in the night. What lay beneath this shocking revelation? What dark truths were yet to surface as the walls of their lives began to crumble? Emily's breath quickened. "What's next?" she thought, a chill creeping down her spine. Would the truth bind them together or rip them apart forever? As the tremors grew, it became clear the worst was yet to come. Emily's heart thundered and she could see her parents faltering, the flicker of fear turning to shame. "Your family wasn't just sheltering secrets," the woman had said. The room buzzed with electricity, a potent mix of confusion and rage. Jake stood rigid, his fists clenched at his sides. "What else don't I know?" he demanded, voice strained but steady. The tension thickened as the woman opened her mouth to speak again. Just then, the ground beneath their feet trembled again, the rumble escalating from a hum to a violent shake. The stained glass windows rattled and a shiver raced through the congregation, panic igniting in their eyes. "Everyone, get down!" Pastor Collins shouted, arms raised protectively. But the tremors intensified, and a blinding flash of light erupted from the entrance of the church. Energy surged, crackling through the air like a live wire. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, shielding herself from the blinding brilliance. When she dared to open them again, she was hit by a sight she couldn't comprehend. The woman who had stormed in glowed, radiating an otherworldly light. It was as if she had turned from flesh to something ancient and powerful, her voice booming with renewed vigor. "Enough of your ignorance! The truth comes now." In an instant, the light enveloped everyone in the room, and their surroundings began to shift. The walls shimmered and warped, folding in on themselves. Gasps echoed as the congregation stumbled backward, eyes wide with fear. Then in the heartbeat between breaths, everything changed. The light exploded outward, and when it receded, they found themselves in a different place entirely. Instead of the familiar wooden pews and stained glass, they stood in an expansive, barren landscape under a stormy sky. What just happened?" Emily breathed, her feet unsteady against the cool earth. The woman, now fully transformed, stepped forward, her voice echoing oddly against the desolate backdrop. "You were all bound to the lies and the choices of the past, but now you stand at the crossroads of truth." Jake looked around, eyes darting in astonishment. "Where are we? What is this?" "This is where the reality splits," the woman declared, eyes locked onto Jake. "You thought your choices were your own, but they were crafted by those before you." "What do you mean?" Jake stuttered, confusion wrinkling his brow. The air crackled with anticipation. Emily felt her stomach drop. "What does this mean for us? For our family? The glowing woman's eyes sparkled, mirroring the storm above. Your brother's struggles are tied to a darker truth than he can understand, a sacrifice made not by him, but by the very person who should protect him. A hushed silence descended. "Mom, what does she mean?" Emily turned to her mother, eyes wide, searching for answers. But before her mother could reply, the storm erupted. Swirling winds whipping around them. From within the chaos, a new figure emerged, a man, his face obscured by shadows, but familiarity tugging at Emily's memory. The world tilted as recognition struck. "Dad?" He stepped closer, his voice deep and resonant. "It's time for you to understand, Emily. Everything we built was meant to shield you, but the cost was greater than you know." The revelation crashed over her like a tidal wave. All the moments she'd cherished, each laugh shared with Jake, had been built on a foundation of betrayal and despair. "What happened? What did you do?" she whispered, panic taking hold of her. "Family bonds were tested in ways you cannot imagine," her dad replied, guilt lacing his words. "And we chose our own paths to protect you both. But at what price?" Emily felt the ground shake beneath her, the world around them threatening to collapse under the weight of their hidden truths. The connection that seemed so solid now felt like chains, binding them to an uncertain fate. "Where do we go from here?" Jake's voice quivered, knowing this revelation could shatter everything they thought was real. The woman before them spoke again, her voice fierce and relentless. "You must choose. Confront the darkness or remain shackled by the past. But remember." As her words echoed into the storm, something within Emily ignited. This was just the beginning, the first challenge of many ahead. But the question loomed larger than life. What would they uncover in the shadows? Would they rise together, or would their family be torn apart forever in this fight against the truth? Emily's heart raced, the tension coiling tighter. She watched the glowing woman, her father, and Jake, all caught in a web of revelations. The storm above rumbled, shadows flickering ominously in the distance. Shadows of something unknown, something dangerous. "What do you mean?" Emily pressed, desperate for clarity as uncertainty hung in the air. "What choices were made for us?" The woman's fire burned bright. "The past has claws that dig deep into the present. It's time you see the full picture. Each piece of darkness leading back to a single source." Before she could finish, the wind howled like a wounded beast, and the ground shook violently beneath them. Everything spun, and Emily grabbed his brother's hand, heart pounding. "Jake, stay close!" Suddenly, the air parted, and from the chaos, a vision emerged, flickering images, fractured memories flashing before Emily's eyes. A younger version of her father stood in a dimly lit room, shaking hands with shadowy figures. Deals made in whispers, concealed under the guise of goodwill. Emily gasped, a chill running down her spine as recognition sunk in. "What is this?" Jake's voice quivered beside her. "It's showing you. the woman began, but her voice faltered as the images sharpened, magnifying the tension between them all. It was clear. This was more than just family issues. This was a legacy of betrayal. Emily stepped forward, drawn to the unfolding scenes. Were those drug deals? What did you get into, Dad? But before he could answer, the vision exploded into chaos. A blinding flash made her squint, and in that moment, everything changed. Jake stumbled backward, clutching his head. What's happening? As she reached out to him, he froze, eyes wide with newfound terror. Emily? He seemed to gulp down his panic, voice cracking. I don't think I'm who you think I am. The words hung heavy in the air, a seismic shift in her understanding. What are you talking about? She whispered, feeling a lump rise in her throat. I didn't ask to be saved. His eyes darted with a fear that struck like lightning. They're coming for me because of what we did. The congregation shifted around them, whispers swelling like a rising tide. What do you mean? Emily pressed, heat creeping up her cheeks as disbelief clouded her mind. Suddenly, the shadowy figures from the visions began to materialize all around them, the air thick with dread. Their faces twisted in anger, voices rising into a chilling roar. You thought you could turn away? They screamed, the wind carrying their accusation like a violent storm. Emily recoiled, chips of panic chipping away at her composure. Jake, what did you do? But before he could reply, a new figure stepped forth, similar to Jake, but darker, more menacing, a twisted version of her brother, eyes glinting with malicious intent. You spent years living in a lie, he sneered, and now it's time for the truth to cut deep like a knife. As the world spun anew, shifting with the rage surrounding them, something heavy settled in Emily's chest. The air grew thick, suffocating. What does that even mean? She shouted against the rise of noise. Jake's expression changed again. It softened, eyes brightening as he looked to Emily. I was never the one you needed to worry about. Her heart stopped, a deep freeze gripping her. What do you mean? Suddenly, the sky cracked open, a blinding flash illuminating the darkness that enveloped them. As the shadows swept away, each person stood agape, revealing secrets that clawed at their souls. Amidst the chaos, the shadows whispered more, dark truths spilling into the open. A tidal wave of revelations crashed into Emily's mind, shaking the very foundations she thought she stood on. I am not your brother. Jake's voice shattered the remaining silence, each word a shard piercing through the fabric of her reality. The world around her narrowed, heart pounding a frantic rhythm. The ultimate question blurred everything in a haze. Then who are you? Emily felt her breath catch, every heartbeat echoing the words that shattered her world. I am not your brother. Jake's voice hit her like a stone, and the spinning tempest of chaos slowed for just a second. What do you mean? She whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Confusion churned in her stomach, twisting tighter with each. The glowing woman looked on, her expression unreadable, as if she navigated a deeper truth beneath the surface. Everyone stood frozen. The shadows hung in the air like thick fog, and Emily felt the weight of every pair of eyes boring into her. "Then who are you?" she demanded, her voice rising over the gasps of the crowd. "I thought I was Jake." His voice faltered, vulnerability spilling out. "But I was part of something bigger, something wrong." The words seemed to crack the ground under their feet. Emily could feel the faces around her shifting, horror and disbelief playing out like a dark film. No one was ready for this. She wasn't ready for this. "Wait, what are you saying?" The tremors around them intensified, matching the fear building in her heart. "You mean you're not—" "No!" Jake, this stranger, took a step forward. "Not real, like you. I was put here, made to be what you expected. A suit worn well, but always hollow." The flickering energy around him pulsed, his form quivering as he spoke. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the air again. The clouds overhead roiled, furious, as if responding to the revelations. "You were a shadow." Emily's voice sunk to a whisper, as if the weight of realization crushed her whole being. "I'm a product of a deal," he confessed. "A part of whatever happened between your parents and that dark force. They made choices." The crowd gasped, the shockwaves rippling back. "And he faltered, his eyes searching hers. "I was made to hold your family together." But it was all a lie. A silence fell, thick and heavy. The congregation began murmuring, voices swirling with disbelief and fear, fragments of protests cutting through the quiet. "How? Why? How could you do this?" Pastor Collins stepped in, voice shaky yet firm. "You don't understand. This is beyond what we imagined. We have to bring the truth to light." Before anyone could respond, a blinding flash erupted around them. Emily squinted, her heart racing faster than her thoughts. In an instant, the world warped. The storm recoiled, revealing another vision. A dark, spiraled room, heavy with the scent of dampness and decay. "Look!" the glowing woman pointed. Pulling their attention, images unfolded, a contract laid out under flickering candles. Jake's likeness signing away hope. The shadows of figures from the past loomed over him, their laughter chilling. Glimmers of understanding flared. Jake was never just her brother. He was always something more sinister, something constructed. Her heart sank painfully. What does this mean? What happens now? As the shadows shifted, the woman stepped forward, eyes piercing. Your family, Emily. They sacrificed a piece of their souls to keep secrets hidden. And in this chaos, I feel something darker, something that could bind you together or break you apart forever. Suddenly, the familiar warmth of her parents faded as their truth bled into the air. No, this can't be! Emily's voice broke like glass shattering underfoot. The reality crushed in, thick like heavy fog. You are part of this! All of you! There is a choice to be made. The woman's voice surged, filling the air like thunder. But what choice? What would she choose? To embrace the shadows or step into the light? The question hung, unanswered, an aching void that echoed in her chest. As the vision dissolved, swirling clouds of chaos, A chilling laugh echoed from the darkness, wrapping around her like cold breath. You can't escape what's inside. Emily felt the sweat bead on her forehead, the urgency overwhelming her. Who was she really standing with? And as every truth flickered, all she could wonder was, what lay ahead? Emily felt the weight in her chest grow as the air crackled with tension. Jake, the boy she thought she knew, stood before her now, not her brother, but something else entirely. What do you mean, you're not my brother? Her voice trembled with disbelief. The shadows swirled closer, feeding on the confusion. I was made to fit in, to keep up appearances, he confessed. But I'm not real in the way you think. He took a step back, as if to distance himself from the truth. Emily's heart raced, and panic clawed at her throat. The woman stood unwavering, energy radiating from her. This is just the beginning, Emily. What you're beginning to uncover will lead you down a path you weren't prepared for. But you need to know the truth. What truth? Emily shouted, desperation pushing her words forward. What can possibly make sense of all this? Then, like the snap of a twig in a silent forest, a sound cracked through the chaos. A low rumble, more menacing than the storm above, echoed from the distance. The ground began to shake violently beneath them. Emily clutched her brother, this imposter, trying to steady herself. Everyone, stay back! Pastor Collins shouted. But it was too late. The earth shuddered, sending them all stumbling. The shadows grew thicker, swirling like a thundercloud. Suddenly, from amidst the chaos, the ground split open, a dark chasm yawning wide. Emily's breath hitched as she froze, caught between fear and the raw need to understand. What's happening? Jake screamed, grasping her tighter as the edge of the chasm glowed with a blinding light. The woman stepped forward, her expression fierce with determination. This is where the truth lies, where all choices converge. As if answering her call, from the depths of the chasm, a figure rose, a pain-worn image that was at once familiar and haunting. Mom? Emily's voice cracked, recognition crashing over her like a wave. Emily! The figure's voice rattled through the air, tinged with sorrow. I had to come. Time's running out. Run! Shouted a man in the crowd, his face pale as he pointed to the growing fissure. The congregation turned, a collective gasp echoing through the air. But Emily was entranced. Mom, what's going on? She pleaded, fear digging under her skin. Listen to me. I made a deal. The words tumbled out, heavy with regret. For you and Jake, to keep you safe. But it cost so much more than I anticipated. Jake's eyes widened, simmering with disbelief. A deal? What do you mean? Sparks flew from the chasm as pulsating light engulfed the figure of their mother. I was trying to protect you from the shadows lurking in our past, the mistakes our family made. But that protection has a price, and it's time to pay. Emily gasped, her heart sinking. What price? What did you do? Suddenly, the glow around their mother flickered, revealing a mask, her face shifting, distorting, until it was no longer recognizable. The revelation hit Emily like a punch to the gut. No, it can't be. The woman who once stood for truth twisted into a dark reflection of something stronger, a terrible smile creeping across her lips. "Welcome back, dear one," she hissed, her voice now layered with darkness. "Mom?" Emily's voice trembled, a tightness in her throat choking back fear. "You're not—" But the transformation was complete. The familiar warmth shifted into something cold and malign. "Your mother's choice sealed your fate," the doppelganger said, malice dripping from every word. "Why? What for?" Jake yelled, his heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos. "To control you," she hissed, "and to ensure that the pact for power never breaks." Everything felt like it shattered in that moment. The foundations of their relationship cracked wide open, revealing vulnerabilities laid bare. Emily stumbled backward as screams echoed, the chasm widening, darkness threatening to swallow them whole. "Run!" Pastor Collins shouted, but all Emily could do was stand there. The world blurred around her, shadows reaching out, tendrils of despair wrapping around her heart like a vice. Jake pulled her by the arm, urgency flooding his voice. "We need to get out! Now!" But the questions clawed at the edges of her mind. Who had they been, and what had her parents really agreed to? What if everything they believed, the bonds of family, love, sacrifice, was built on lies? As the storm of chaos spun around them, a chilling question settled in her heart. "What do you mean you're not my brother?" Her voice trembled as the weight of his words sank in. Shadows loomed with an angry energy, their presence feeding off the confusion and despair. "I'm not real in the way you think," Jake said, stepping back as if distancing himself from the truth. The congregation gasped, their faces painted with disbelief. The glowing woman stood firm, her intensity grinding against the rising panic. "Everything you believe has been a lie," she declared, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. "You must face the truth." "What truth?" Emily shouted, desperation making her voice quiver. Around her, people shifted, caught in a tide of emotions, churning like a storm building. Immediately, another rumble echoed through the dark chasm that had opened. The shadows swirled closer, as if drawn to the chaos. Emily grasped the nearest thing, Jake's arm, her heart racing. The air felt electric, charged with dread. Then, from the depths of the chasm, a chilling voice broke the tension. "You're too late!" it howled, a deep, guttural sound that sent shivers racing down Emily's spine. Suddenly, out of the chasm, an enormous creature emerged. An amalgamation of darkness and memories. Its eyes glowed like embers, fierce and hungry. "You thought you could escape me?" it spat, letting a wave of despair wash over them. Emily stumbled backward, shock paralyzing her as fear pooled in her stomach. The creature! A manifestation of everything hidden, twisted and contorted, bursting with rage. The shadows coiled around it, feeding on their fears. The woman shouted against the tumult. This is not his true form. This is what your family's secrets created. What are you talking about? Jake yelled, terror bubbling in his voice. What do you want from us? It laughed, a cruel sound that echoed into the dark sky. What I want is the soul of this family. The sacrifices made to keep the truth hidden, to reveal them. And now it's time to pay the price. Emily felt the ground tremble, ruptured cracks spreading outward. "Mom," she cried, desperate as recognition washed over her. A moment from childhood, a lie that borrowed light yet lived in darkness. But the creature was upon them, shift and swirl of shadow and flame, churning with a life of its own. Did you really think she protected you? Did you think she aspired to be your savior? It bellowed, displaying a rift of betrayal so profound it threatened to consume everything. "No," Emily shouted, tears burning in her eyes. "You're lying!" But doubt tangled in her mind, feeding their growing shadows, twisting everything she had believed. "You think your mother loves you? She used you." Chaos erupted in the crowd, eyes wide with disbelief. "That can't be possible," someone yelled from the back. The creature turned, eyes piercing and focused on Emily. "I know all of your fears. All your dreams were built on a throne of lies. Your mother made a deal, yes, but so did you, Emily. You agree to silence when you pick up that brush, to turn away from what's true." The revelation crashed and shook the very foundation around them. "You're wrong!" she screamed, feeling the cracks widen, threatening to swallow her whole. But as the shadows raced toward her, the air shifted. "This isn't a choice you can run from." The woman broke through the noise, her voice cutting sharply. "Fight for what's yours. You have the power to redefine this." Emily's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage. Could she? Should she? But just as hope flickered, another voice rose from the depths, one familiar and haunting. "You should have never come here, Emily." The ground split again as their father emerged, eyes dark with rage. "You were supposed to stay away." The world around her dimmed. Confusion twisted into horror, and as their eyes met, the terrible weight of the truth slammed into her. Everything she thought she knew began to unravel as questions flooded her mind. Now, standing amidst the shadows and revelations, how would she confront the darkness that surrounded her? And who could she trust now that all she had believed was crumbling in front of her? Emily's breath hitched as her father's shadow loomed over them. The flickering light around him cast eerie patterns on the ground, while whispers of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "You should have never come here, Emily," he growled, voice low and dangerous. The creature, bold and vast, seemed to pulse with energy, waiting, hungry for the unraveling. "Is this the face of your protector?" it taunted, sending a shiver down her spine. The anger radiating from her father was palpable, like heat from a furnace, and she found herself taking a wary step back. "Dad, please, what's happening?" she pleaded, desperation clawing at her throat. "Tell me the truth." His face twisted, and for a moment she thought she caught a glimpse of something. Remorse, perhaps? But it vanished, replaced by a steely resolve. The truth? You want to know the truth? The truth is I did what I had to do to survive. Emily's pulse raced. Survive? You put us at risk for a... Suddenly, everything exploded. The creature roared, the ground shaking violently beneath them. Stop! This must end now, it bellowed. In a flash, the dark chasm widened further, shadows spiraling into a vortex of chaos. Grab on! Jake shouted, pulling Emily close. But the pull of the chasm was fierce. She could feel the heat of it tugging at her, a whirlpool of darkness threatening to swallow them whole. And then, as they stumbled toward the edge, the glowing woman stepped forward, unfazed by the chaos. You have to make a choice now! What choice? Emily cried, her voice lost in the growing tumult. There's no choice left. But the woman's eyes burned bright, filled with conviction. The truth binds you together or tears you apart. Embrace it. Just then, without warning, the skies cracked open. A blinding light pierced through the dark clouds, and for a moment time froze. The ground stilled, and everyone turned to face the brilliance that descended from above. And there it was, not an angel or a savior, but instead a swirling figure of light that twisted the very air around it. Its voice echoed, resonating through the heart of each soul present. You seek answers. They lie not in your past, but in your future. Before anyone could react, the light burst forth, engulfing Emily. It poured into her like liquid fire, illuminating memories that had been shadowed for too long. Clarity crashed over her like a wave. Your family's secrets are not theirs alone, the light revealed. You were chosen for this. All of you. Even him. What? She gasped, glancing back at Jake. Confusion etched in his features. The connection between them pulsed, a line of fate she had never fathomed. Suddenly, the transparency shattered. Jake is your twin, the light declared, but not in the way you think. You are both parts of a whole, each created to fill in the gaps left by your parents' decisions. A violent shock ran through her. We're twins? She whispered, the revelation slamming into her like a freight train. How could this be? Was everything a facade? A larger play orchestrated by forces beyond her understanding? Jake's eyes widened, his expression as bewildered as hers. No, it can't be. We're not. I can't be. But the truth was born from the shadows, strong and vivid, standing before them. Yes, you are bound not just by blood, but by choice as well. The light surged, voices echoing like a choir as it shattered the barriers. This is your moment. Break free of what was written for you. The shadows shrank and writhed, unsure how to respond. This new truth, this connection, clash with their very nature. What would it mean for Emily? What would it mean for Jake? As the creature shrieked, rage entwined with fear, the light around Emily flickered, a beacon calling her to move. The world shifted around them. A kaleidoscopic swirl of emotions smashing together, feelings blossoming into something utterly new. Would they fight against it? Would they choose to embrace this shocking reality? With her pulse racing, Emily felt the air buzz with the potential of choices yet to come. The question hung, hovering in the chaos. How would they harness this power, and what awaited them on the path forward? As the blinding light swallowed Emily, everything changed. The darkness around them thinned as the shadows trembled, caught off guard by the surge of truth. Jake, her twin, stood beside her, confusion etched on his face, but a flicker of hope ignited in his eyes. "What do we do?" he asked, voice steadying. "Together!" Emily replied, determination filling her chest. She reached out, gripping his hand tightly. "We break the cycle!" The swirling darkness hissed, the creature recoiling from the light between them. "You think unity can overpower me?" it sneered, but doubt quaked in its voice. The shadows hesitated, faltering under the brightness of their bond. "Your past doesn't define us!" Emily shouted, her voice ringing clear. "You have brought us here, but we choose to break free." With a sudden rush, her father stepped forward, shock wavering in his expression. "No, you can't control them!" He lunged toward the creature, a protective instinct sparking life in his stance. "I will not let you take my family." As he plunged into the shadows, the dark figure roared. Reversing its grip on the chaos, swirling with rage, Emily darted closer to Jake, hearts pounding in unison. "We have to show them!" With a deep breath, they turned their gaze back to the glowing figure beside them, the woman who had ignited this truth. "Help us! Channel this!" In an instant, vibrant pulse of light connected them all, sending waves of warmth through their intertwined hands. Light swelled around them, powerful and unyielding. The shadows recoiled, and the air crackled with energy. One last time, Emily met Jake's gaze. "No more hiding!" Together they took a step forward, merging their energies with the light, fueling it with every hidden dream and suppressed hope. The shadows wavered, and in front of the congregation, the darkness began to collapse, swirling in on itself. "No!" it screamed, its voice cracking, shifting from menace to unfiltered fear. "You cannot deny where you came from." "Yes, we can!" Emily yelled back with fierce conviction. "What was done in the dark can be brought to light." With that, a blinding flash erupted, engulfing everything. Emily squeezed Jake's hand tighter, and the world exploded around them. The shadows burst apart and disintegrated into nothingness, leaving clarity behind. The church swayed as the chaos faded, the air finally still. Sunlight streamed through the stained glass, creating a serene mosaic of colors that enveloped them in warmth. Emily blinked hard, soul alight. The crowd stood frozen, expressions of awe and disbelief crossing their faces. "Is it over?" she whispered, stealing a glance at Jake. Did we win?" The woman smiled, glowing with soft light. "You did. You've reclaimed your truth. Your family will heal now." Tears brimmed in Emily's eyes. "But what about the past? What happens next?" "It's up to you to forge your path," the woman said, her voice gentle yet firm. Together you can lead your family into the light, and you will never be alone again. As realization washed over them, Emily felt a warmth bloom in her chest. "Thank you," she breathed. Jake nodded, hope blooming anew. "We'll rebuild," he said, his voice steady. The congregation erupted into applause, tears flowing freely. Emily's parents stepped forward, faces pale but relieved, expressions full of remorse. "We're so sorry, Em. We didn't want to hurt you," her mother murmured, wrapping her arms around her. Emily hugged her tightly, knowing this was a beginning, not an end. The warmth of connected hearts reignited their faith in each other, igniting a spirit of healing among them. But as she turned, the woman smiled, fading slowly back into the light. "Take care of each other always." Emily felt a gentle tug at her heart. Was this truly the end? No, it felt like the door to a brand new journey. And as they stood there, illuminated by the warmth of their resolve, a thrilling question lingered. What adventures awaited them as they took their first steps into this uncharted territory? Now, if you felt this story tug at your heartstrings, you must subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the time to show your support. Don't wait 1 second longer to hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this dramatic ending. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. Let's keep this incredible journey going together.